There are no signs of the legacy of this derelict site, a legacy that transformed the world.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy. That bomb has more power than 20,000 tons of TNT.
The dock is one of several used in the transportation of pitchblende, a source of uranium used in the making of the atomic bomb during the Second World War. There are few physical relics or places that remain of this part of history. But as a site of war memory, this dock can serve as a gateway to a larger story that transcends cultures. The obligation to remember the impact of the Second World War on generations of people around the world. Hired for the task of carrying ore bags were local indigenous people, Delaunay Gautineau, an experience that forever changed that generation and impacted many people to this day. This story explores how we remember, forget, and silence the past. It speaks to the suffering, resilience, and strength of the Dene people. It is also about the nation of Canada and a call to reconcile this past. In 2005, a government report was unable to find a direct correlation between uranium exposure and the wave of cancer that impacted the community of Delaunay, a contested conclusion even to this day. Although many in the community are moving forward into the future, Canada has not formally acknowledged the impact on the people of Delaunay. It is a part of Canada's war history that has been silenced. During the filming of the Sites of War Memory project in 2015, we had learned about Port Radium, a mine on the shores of Great Bear Lake that had supplied feed materials for the making of the atomic bomb. Documentaries such as Village of Widows and several books record the experience of the Dene people at Port Radium, where pitchblende was mined. Nothing remains of Port Radium today. For 5 decades, Eldorado Mining and Refining Limited, and later the Government of Canada, operated this site. As a contaminated site, the Government of Canada completed remediation in 2007, removing all buildings, contaminated materials, and closing mine shafts. With no site to hold the memory, we turned to Library and Archives Canada to learn about Port Radium.
We're here at the Gatineau Preservation Centre, and we're interested in finding out what we can learn from the archival information to do with Port Radium.
Leafing through documents reveals images and names of individuals connecting various parts of the story. Memos addressed to Gilbert Labine, the owner of Eldorado and then an agent for the Government of Canada. His name is found on a sign of historic interest outside the old Eldorado refinery in Port Hope, Ontario. Uranium was shipped from Port Radium to Port Hope, a distance of over 4,000 kilometers, where it was refined and then sent on to the United States. Port Radium provided over 1,100 tons, or approximately 11% of the total uranium used in the Manhattan Project. About 80% of the total amount of feed materials required for the Manhattan Project was refined here in these buildings. Today, the refinery produces fuel for reactors and is owned by the Canadian Mining and Energy Corporation. Another sign of the connection to this history is found across from the City Hall in Port Hope. Japanese cherry trees planted on August 6, 1985, commemorating the 40th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. There are also photos of life in Port Radium. Sand in a jar from the test explosion draw the line between Port Radium and the Manhattan Project. A few weeks later, Hiroshima, then Nagasaki. The Second World War ended a few days later. The debate continues as to whether it was strategically necessary to use this weapon, let alone morally acceptable. With those questions comes one for Canada and the Dene. Was the cost for the Dene worth the outcome?
The world was forever changed here. But today, the children of this city will go through their day in peace. What a precious thing that is. It is worth protecting and then extending to every child. That is the future we can choose. A future in which Hiroshima and Nagasaki are known not as the dawn of atomic warfare, but as the start of our own moral awakening.
Our visit to the archives provided more questions than answers. It became clear that to tell the story of Port Radium, a place that no longer exists, we needed to find the guardians of remembrance to this story. For Port Radium, it is Delaunay Gautier. We arrived in Delaunay in September 2017. As outsiders, our impression was of a community with a distinct culture that is connected to the land. It is also a place of stunning beauty, day or night. Our presence was to learn their story.
Port Radium in our language is Sombake. Sombake is Port Radium. Somba means money. Ke means place. Okay. Money place. I lived here all my life, but I was also born on land.
Would you feel comfortable going to Port Radium nowadays?
No.
저 제니티키 출신 저래 베드라 아고가 다스키리 키고 와서가 마시 아시지 알프레드 타넨톤 세리티 이다 단니 이괴수마게 고인 아신 다레쇼 자고 대가라케 타글루 테네 사레데 테네 비지 이 정대가라 진타케 티테네 사이테 테네 카케틸 카레쇼 쿠베존데 지카케리는 쿨루 테네 타케틸 테네 구쿠르 야라케니 와라 카레쇼 테네 자 아시나케니
My name is Danny Gadet. I grew up in Delaunay all my life. When you talk about legacies and stuff like that, I mean, I think one of them is that our people were never told about the dangers of being exposed to uranium. There's letters on file that the federal government knew back then that opening Port Radium was a huge health risk to anybody that operated or worked there.
Kanikuli mashinda te uthale tlende bichwen tlanika lipira rine balazeta. Asi tkhane cha bega kumslinda bichwen tlande yine lota lipira. Nishin de khani tisi lipira yine kin nazoi da yine nazonai.
Bigkurisi tekele tlaune. Bigkurisi tele tlaune.
Oh, I barke te Bekure kante tastlai bege kante ini sinde beku barke tere tine kan behi chihu pe yano tane ka gedila This is a cool level in question about a night. A got a dish on a chatahi shoot out to chow in tea with a witch. And I eat to a chassis, not polite on that day. Quay winning a jet a key. Yeah, not a day. And Surinati thinking that's into a cacatil.
A lot of our people that participated in carrying ore bags, living at the mines, or a lot of them died off, and they all died off with cancer. That was a tough issue with the community because we not only had all the kids going to school somewhere else, leaving the community, but we also had the elders leaving at a fast rate. So it's almost like we didn't have any youth around the community as we grew up, but we also didn't have any elders because we were losing them so fast.
I talked to some of the scientists about these sites. He said, privately telling me story, he says, don't go there. It's bad. Even though it's low level, it says that's the worst site you can be. And I told him to explain to me. Privately, the two are talking about it, and says, tell me what happens. And he said, if you go to these contaminated sites, you walk through them, you don't see this, whatever it is there. It says, it goes through your body, says, that array of radioactive waste. You don't see it, but it's there. It goes through your body, and then, he says, it would injure your blood cells. And then it would turn against itself. And 10, 20 years, it would create tumors or cancer. And that's what happened.
Certain things that we could have done to confirm a lot of things. But some of these things we couldn't, go that far. And part of it was maybe even just exhuming bodies, getting blood test results from bodies. So that was kind of, a no-no even with our own people because we don't bother and disturb bodies, right? But we've done a lot of blood work on people that may have been connected to living there that are still alive. We did a lot of research on basically the health system, the monitoring of patients and the records of patients, and reviewing of documentation of each health or each person and their health and their files. We've done fairly extensive work, but at some point you just said, look, with all the individual files, each and every one of them that worked there were at risk. So there's this issue of determining what do you mean by risk, right? Okay, well, if you smoked a cigarette, well, you're at risk. If you lived at Port Radium Mine, you're at risk. I dealt with Canada on each and every one of these issues that I've talked to you guys about, and they've never ever denied them.
It's time to think about getting to have a better world. And the only way is to come together to create that. That Prophet Isaiah says the world will end, but nobody knows when. Not even himself, he says. Only the Creator knows when. But if the world doesn't change in what it's doing and it's getting worse, it will end before that date, earlier. Well, that's my story, and I always say after talking about these prophecies, I always says, it's what I know. I'm not trying to change people, I'm just saying what I know. I'm telling you what I know. The decision still lies within you. You decide.
Now is the time for our own moral awakening, for Canada to acknowledge the service and sacrifices of the Delaunay Gautineau.